The following is a message from Christ Central Manchester, a church that meets in the heart of Manchester in the UK. To find out more about us, please visit www.christcentral.org.uk.
Hear me okay? Hello? Hello? Yep, I think we're coming through. Morning. It's dedication Sunday, as it were, where we dedicate these youngsters. Most of them are babies. There's one or two that are a bit older. But I really want to... The word dedication reminds me of other things as well as what we're doing this morning. The word dedication actually, in one way, reminds me of a program I used to watch back in the 1980s, which was a long time ago, called Record Breakers. If you're of my sort of mid-30s to late 30s or older, you might remember this program presented by a guy called Roy Castle, the late Roy Castle, who was just brilliant. And he presented this program, and it was all about breaking records, as the title might suggest. And it was all about getting into the Guinness Book of Records, which I know is still an attractive thing for many people under the age of 10. They think eating as many baked beans in an hour, or being the tallest person in the world, or the shortest person in the world, or having the most amount of tattoos on your face, all these things that get into the Guinness Book of Records for some reason are just fascinating. I was talking to one young lad in our church recently who was around his mum and dad's house, and seeing his mum and dad, and he was getting ready to go for bed, and his nighttime reading as he was sat on the couch downstairs was the Guinness Book of Records 2016. And he was looking at all these amazing body piercings or facial piercings that had got this particular person into the Guinness Book of Records. Well, this program was just about all of that. And it had this theme tune at the beginning, which I won't sing. Those of you that remember it, I won't sing it, don't worry. Dedication. That was the name of the game, as it were. That was I think that was even some of the lyrics. Dedication is key, and dedication is what it was all about. Because to get into the Book of Records, the Guinness Book of Records, you needed dedication, and that was their big theme tune at the beginning. And we love stories, don't we, of dedication? If we're honest, we love to hear the stories of top athletes or dedicated actors or even politicians, for goodness sake. Even politicians that have dedicated their lives to serving people and doing it for the right reasons. We love to hear those kind of stories of dedication, and especially if they've come from adversity and people have, against all odds, made it to where they wanted to get to. We love it. We especially love it if people have been overlooked and overcome obstacles and achieved incredible goals. Someone like, it should come on the screen, Tanni Grey-Thompson, for example, on your left. Born with spina bifida, has gone on to be one of our most successful British Paralympians and is now influencing society as a baroness in the House of Lords. Incredible woman. Or Bear Grylls. Having joined the SAS, he broke his back in a parachute accident where his parachute didn't quite open properly and he landed on his backpack. He was discharged from the military, and he was close, actually, in all of that, to never being able to walk again. Having been discharged from the military, he then directed his efforts towards climbing Mount Everest. 18 months after he'd broken 3 vertebrae in his back, he climbed Mount Everest. We love that, don't we? That kind of dedication. It's like, I would never do it, but we'd love to hear about it. It sounds slightly mad as well, doesn't it? We love it. In parenting, I know in every area of life as well, but in parenting, dedication, we know, should be part of the job description. You kind of are without choice, because when that baby starts to cry at some ungodly hour, no, there is no ungodly hour, but you know what I mean, at some crazy o'clock, 2:30 in the morning, when you've just got into that best part of the night's sleep. We don't really get a best part of the night's sleep in the first year of a baby's life. They say this funny phrase, don't they? I slept really well, I slept like a baby. I don't know many babies that have slept that well. Sleeping like a log's probably better, isn't it? But we know that dedication's part of the package. It just is in good parents. Not perfect parents, there is no such thing. But good parents, we know it's definitely part of the package, as it were. The Cambridge Dictionary definition of the word dedication is this: the willingness to give a lot of time and energy to something because it's important. That's helpful. Simple but helpful. A good parent wants to care for and is totally concerned with the child. In the Bible, God is actually himself described as a parent who's concerned for his children. John 3:16, one of the most famous verses in the Bible, for God so loved the world, and really that's talking about humanity. He didn't so love trees and hills, he so loved humankind that he sent his only son so that whoever might believe in him, it says, would know him and eternally know him. A good parent, God is described as, but a good parent, a good human parent, actually at times will take that dedication, and it's almost like an instinct that as a child receiving that instinct, you don't quite understand. So what I mean by this is, sometimes if you're a parent and you see your child suffering, you would like to swap places with them. You actually would. I remember my mum saying that when I was about 11, 12, and I had this sudden case of appendicitis, which meant, and it was really bad. I remember her saying I was on a drip, and it was, I was in a pretty bad way in hospital, lying in a hospital bed. She kept saying, I wish I could swap places with him. And as an 11-year-old, you're kind of like, yeah, Mum, it's a lovely thought, but obviously it's not real. You can't. I'm the one with the appendix that's going bananas, not you. And, at the age of 11, you don't quite get it. As a parent now, I get it. It's just inbuilt. It's instinct. If I could swap places and take on the pain that they've gone through at times, my children, I would. It's just in you. You can't help it. It's an instinct. The problem with human parents, as I've already alluded to, is we're powerless to be able to affect that. I might want to swap with my child who's suffering, and in serious cases, I'm sure that's the case as well. Parents would swap with that very poorly, very sick baby or child. The problem is we're powerless to do that. We have this desire inbuilt, this dedication inbuilt that we would swap if we could, but we can't. We can't swap places. We'd do anything to swap places if they're in that hospital bed, but we can't. The Bible's pretty clear that not only did God want to swap places, but because he's God, he actually could. He could act out on that desire that he has. He could and did actually swap places with you and me. I heard a story many years ago about a pastor who was attempting to console a young father who, whilst he was cleaning his gun, he'd accidentally left the safety off, and he accidentally shot dead his 3-year-old son. Whilst this pastor was trying to console, this kind of vicar was trying to console this grief-stricken, guilt-riddled young dad, this pastor, suddenly it came to his mind to say to this young dad, God knows what it's like to kill his child. Except when he killed his son, it wasn't an accident. Imagine trying to console that guy in the first place, but imagine saying that. Not only did God want to swap places with you and me, he could and did act on it. And you might say, well, it's a bit strong to say that God killed his own son. Surely that's a bit strong. Surely they're taking the Bible a bit far there. Well, it says in Isaiah 53, which is accredited with really an accurate and wonderful and poetic description and prediction of what Jesus would go through on the cross a few hundred years later. Isaiah says, it was the Lord's will to crush him. And we know from the New Testament, the Bible, the second half of the Bible, we know it's very clear it was always was part of the plan that God the Father would send Jesus, that Jesus would go voluntarily to effectively be killed by God the Father, to be sent to his death by God the Father. Sounds a bit strong to say it the way I have, but it's effectively what happened. Not only did God want to swap places, he did. Jesus did. And not only did he want to swap places, and he did, at the same time as wanting to save us, his children, as it were, he sent his son. It's the good news about Jesus and Christianity is this wonderful but slightly complicated truth that to save you and me, the billions of us on this planet, he sent his one and only son. To save all these children, he sent his other child. He sent Jesus into the most dangerous, painful, torturous situation for you and me. And as I've said already, Jesus went voluntarily, not under duress. Jesus probably went through the most painful, excruciating and evil form of capital punishment that we as a human race have ever managed to come up with. Roman crucifixion is thought to have been one of the worst, if not the worst. But in so doing, Jesus steps into your place and mine. He steps into our carnage in our world of dog eat dog, of the things we do to each other, of war, famine, harm, abuse, greed, of political manipulation of power, of lust, of envy, of strife. He stepped into all of that and took it all on himself. This morning is about us dedicating these youngsters, these little ones, but it's also about dedicating ourselves to God as those that are parents. It's about extended family and church family. But mostly, I would argue this morning, for me, and for even those who are parents that are having their children dedicated this morning, mostly this morning, this is about thanking God for his dedication to you and me. Thanking God that he was so dedicated to us, that he swapped places with us, that he took our place and went through our invented evil. He went through our invented evil that was put on him, and at the same time dealt with the rubbish that we can do to each other. And you might say, well, do you know what? There is such a human being that's kind of a nice human being. You know, not everyone's evil, Keith. You're making it out like everybody's a bit of a psychopath. Well, okay, for every Adolf Hitler there is a Mother Teresa. But in between all of that, there's the rest of us, hopefully. And I don't know about you, but not a day goes by where I don't think I've done something I shouldn't, or I've said something I shouldn't. Not a day goes by where I think, blew that. I wish I hadn't said that. Not a day goes by. Even my own standards, which are not probably God's, because I probably like to, we all like to just sort of fix our own little list. If I've done that, I'm a good boy. I've given that to charity, tick. Even my own little boxes of how I'd like to behave, how I'd like society to behave, what I think a nice person looks like. Even those boxes I don't always tick. And that's what I'm talking about. We get it wrong, if we're honest. We might not always get it catastrophically wrong, but we do even sometimes get it really, really wrong. And the Bible's very clear that when Jesus went to the cross, he wasn't just a confused martyr who just got a bit carried away. No, he was deliberately dying to take all those moments where you and I get it slightly wrong or catastrophically wrong. He took all of it. The Bible calls it sin. It's a kind of an old-fashioned word that we don't like, but we do it a lot. Sorry. We don't like it, but we do it. We don't like it, but we sometimes say horrible things to each other. The Bible calls that sin. The Bible calls that falling short. The Bible calls that not just quite ticking the box. And we all do that. And Jesus said he was deliberately going and like carrying baggage on himself so that when he died, all that baggage of the human race was taken away. You know, the Bible says if we believe on him, John 3:16, God so loved the world that he sent his only son. The Bible also says for the joy set before him, Jesus endured the cross. He knew that as he did this, he was opening up a different way. That those that would believe on Jesus could just know freedom. Wouldn't be perfect. The church isn't meant to be a bunch of do-gooders. The church is meant to be a bunch of people that realise they get it wrong, know they need Jesus, ask him for help, and then just try and follow him. That's what the church is about. Not this bunch of judgmental do-gooders. That's not what the church is about. The church is not Vicar of Dibley. All right? Just in case you thought it was. No. So this morning really is about us thanking God for his dedication to us, swapping places with us. In closing, this morning you may not, as I've said already, you may not call yourself a Christian in your own words. You may say, I'm an agnostic, I'm an atheist, I'm not really interested, I think you're all mad. Or you might say, oh yeah, I've been a Christian for 20 years, I'm a little bit drifting. Or I've been a Christian for 20 years and I'm loving it, and love God. But if you don't call yourself a Christian, if you wouldn't use those words about yourself this morning, I would urge you to look again and consider again the Christian message of a God who swapped places with us out of parental love and dedication. The Christian faith can look like it's a bunch of other things. It can look like many things. It can look like Vicar of Dibley. And really, the Christian message is all about God's dedication to us. That's the centre point. That's the nub of it. The Christian message, Christianity, is all about God's dedication to humanity. That's the centre point. Please, if you don't hear anything else this morning, please hear that. Forget all the other things you can sometimes hear. It's about nice people. No, it's not really about nice people. It's about God's dedication to man and woman for all time. That's what it's about.